it kind of makes sense for those of us who have been feeling that we're in between two worlds right now, because we've been going through some big shifts in astrology. Jupiter has been in Gemini for the past year or so, and it just moved into Cancer on Monday. So this is really exciting because Jupiter is actually in its detriment in Gemini, which means it's not a comfortable placement, and it's like in its exaltation, the coziest, most comfortable place it could be in Cancer. So, you know, it makes sense from reflecting on the shift that I have been through lately, going from being kind of like buzzy and strategic and focusing on all the things that like really feeling that expansion in that Gemini energy, which is that curiosity and, you know, being into this thing and that thing and the next thing. Because Cancer is a water sign and it's all about intuition and really allowing the body to lead. And I don't know about you, but I feel like I've been pulled into that shift in a really big way over the past few days and weeks. So I want to reflect on some of these themes as it relates to our financial expansion, our relationship with money, and just doing our work in the world in the way that is in alignment for us. And that's going to bring us those cozy vibes for the next year. And there's a lot going on. Obviously, it's not always just as simple as one influence of one planet. But Jupiter's a really powerful planet, and it is a planet that really blesses us and brings expansion and abundance. You know, the shadow side of that is it can bring expansion and exacerbation in a lot of these themes as well, which can bring challenges. So really lean into, over the next year, thinking about Cancer. Look at Cancer placements in your chart. Have a think about some of the main themes in Cancer and how you can really lean into them and leverage them to benefit you, and also to obviously tap into the collective and what other people are feeling over the next year or so for this transit. So Cancer is my 10th and 11th house. So I'm just like really, and I know that this transit has been coming. This is just a great transit for me as someone in business and as an entrepreneur. And so I'm just really leaning into those community vibes. Like that's what 11th house is. It's community. So Cancer also connects to money through themes of emotional security. That's obviously a really big one. Also taking an intuitive approach and building and safeguarding a sense of like that material state of protection. Cancer is the crab. So it's that hard shell that creates protection and creates safety to be able to withdraw and be all like cozy and protected from the outside world and from the things that threaten our sense of safety. So we get to think about this from a material standpoint and an emotional standpoint, and also from, you know, like a family and an ancestry standpoint. And obviously this full moon coming up is going to be in Sagittarius, which is all about our beliefs and our belief systems. So we're going to dive into that in our journaling today. But I like to think of the keyword of Jupiter in Cancer as being care. Whenever I think about Cancer and my Venus is in Cancer, you know, what is it that I want to lean into, that I want to embody, that I know benefits me, that I know benefits my people, and just helps to create that connection. And that is that sense of care. So really thinking about making decisions from the heart and with the well-being of all involved at the center of our decisions. And, you know, I don't think it's a coincidence that we've seen these eruptions of the riots in LA happening right at the point of this transit. We're really waking up to the fact that in order to take care of the collective, like care is something that it's an action, you know, it's an activity, like self-care. And I like to put money in the category of self-care, because we can't care for ourselves without money in this world, right? Unless you like literally live off the land and you don't interact with the economy whatsoever. So prioritizing the actions and the habits and the identities and the mindsets and the belief systems that allow strong, protective support structures in our relationship with money, and that obviously comes through our relationships with people as well. So so I think everyone in here we already have that superpower. That's something that comes to us very naturally, is like putting care at the center of everything that we do. So we just get to turn up the dial on that, and I think trust ourselves even more, you know, in order to build a new world, the world that we want to see. Like, we have to go first. And that's really you know, the other big placement that's influencing us at the moment is Saturn moving into Aries, and at this full moon it's going to be squaring Jupiter. So Saturn, you know, that's like the hard taskmaster. That's the challenges that we face that really invite us into that growth, that allow us to build that new level of diligence and skill and capability and stability and consistency, that bring these new ways of being into fruition. And it took a while for this concept to land, but I've heard other people describe Saturn as like it's like getting a gift from a friend who really knows you. You know, it's like someone who doesn't really know you. They might buy you a lovely candle or some lovely cosmetics, but somebody who really knows you, like, they're gonna buy you like that face oil that you like had in your basket, you know, or like that thing that is so specifically something that you desire, that is unique to you, that receiving it makes you so happy and feel really seen. You know, it's like when you put in the work in a relationship and opening up and letting people see you and get to know you, then they can meet you where you want to be met. That's like the relationship with Saturn. Like, you've got to put in the work, but the return and the rewards from that are like better than anything else. So Saturn in Aries is diligence and commitment to self-leadership. So thinking of that concept of care, you know, we have to go first. Whatever it is that we want to see for others, we have to seek and apply and embody those solutions first, which is the hardest part, right? But as is always the case with Saturn, it's the work that's required to really reach the payoff, and it's the payoff that you desire, that you are gonna enjoy receiving more than any other payoff. So something I've been working through with my therapist is like my ADD tendencies of like when I hit that stuckness or that challenge and I feel overwhelmed and it feels really hard, like when you're learning a new skill and you're just like, oh, this is so boring. I task switch, and I'll be like, I'm just going to go over here and do that thing I'm like really good at already, because that's fun and that's going to keep me in momentum. And I don't think that's the worst thing in the world, but just, I think following the path of least resistance has got me very, very far in life and building a life that I love. But it's just, bringing awareness to that tendency and asking myself, like, is this really serving me? And what could be on the other side of just gritting my teeth a little bit, or having a more mature and established toolkit to be like, okay, I'm in a challenge right now. How do I keep moving through it rather than just like abandoning it and then coming back to it later? So yeah, diligence, commitment to self-leadership, and just recognizing that these Saturn in Aries and Jupiter in Cancer is in a square. So we're going to be feeling the crunch around this at the moment in this new moon. And so another exciting shift is Venus moving into Taurus, which happened last Thursday night. So what I want to focus our conversation and our journaling on today is really how to navigate to this next level, to this financial expansion through the path of beauty and simplicity and grounded consistency and pleasure, because that's Venus in Taurus, and Venus is in its exaltation in Taurus. So this is just another really fabulous supportive energy, particularly when it comes to abundance and creativity. So I think we get to kind of like, dip in both of those categories, like lean into the crunch a little bit and like persevere, but really refuel and fill our tank and, replenish our resources in the things that feel so freaking good, and really pouring into ourselves and finding those pleasurable pathways to bring our most beautiful vision to life, like when you're planning your launch or you're launching an offer, or even organizing your finances, asking like, well, what is the way that I desire to do this? You know, if I was going to pick the most beautiful way to get there, what do I pick? What, you know, yes, feels like a path of least resistance and feels accessible to me, but what also would be a dream come true? Like, what do I want to be writing a picture postcard home about at the end of this project? You know, like, I cannot believe this is the way that it unfolded. It was just so incredible. I'm living, you know, such a incredible life that I'm grateful for, and all the things that I'm doing to get to that next level and to bring my vision to life are just like the best. So full moon is in Sagittarius, which is also ruled by Jupiter. So there's a lot of expansive energy going on in this full moon. And Sagittarius is all about adventure, expansion, education, spirituality, philosophy, travel. And one of the most beneficial qualities of Sagittarius that we can lean into right now, especially as it comes to our financial expansion, is faith. So use this full moon to like crank up the dial on your faith, like go full in on the money mindset work. Really look at your beliefs, really look at your self-talk, and look at how, you know, that those belief systems are influencing the way that you're taking action. Like, this is a great time to set a really big goal, you know, like tune back in, like maybe you scaled back a bit, maybe you started negotiating with yourself, like reconnect to that big goal and build those pathways and belief systems of faith and tap back into that miraculous, you know, manifestation and magic and the identity that really allows you to show up for that. So we're going to do some journaling on this today. But the big question of this full moon is, do you really believe in your big vision? You know, what is your vision? And this is something that you can tune back into. Because maybe it's evolved and maybe it's shifted a little bit and changed. Like, you know, we're halfway through the year, and one of the things on my to-do list is to make a new vision board, because I'm looking on my vision board and I'm like, this is my life. And I don't know what was happening in January, but like, I wasn't dreaming big enough. I was like, there's some other big things that have bubbled up. I'm like, it's time to make a new vision board and to just revisit what I'm working towards and what's really that emotional motivation behind our mission, and really feeling connected to that, because you don't truly go after goals unless there's an emotional charge there, you know? So really checking back in with that. Is it just an arbitrary goal that you've just been writing down for forever that you copied from somebody else, or is this something that really holds meaning to you and that you feel really connected to? And you know, I think when we're setting goals, there's a magic in finding that sweet spot where it's like, you've got the big expansive goal, you know, that like fantasy goal that maybe feels a little bit far away. There's definitely some magic in bringing the goal a little closer and picking that goal that still feels like a dream come true, that still feels like it's going to stretch you, but also feels within reach. So just play with that. And obviously we're in Gemini season, so this is the season for communication, for community, for having chats, getting our work out there, you know, talking about our work. And obviously the shadow side of Gemini is being scattered. And I know that's something that I have dealt with a lot and continue to navigate. And a lot of my clients and, you know, people who have a lot of creative energy, that is one of the shadows that we are continually dealing with, is what to pick and what to really, you know, put that Saturn energy into building, doing the grunt work and actually building your idea into material reality, and developing that discipline and that structure. So we get to explore, you know, I think our curiosity as creative people, our curiosity is just one of our superpowers and one of the things that creates a lot of motivation. And so we get to playfully allow that to lead the way. And it can be, you know, I feel like our curiosity and our intuition go hand in hand, right? If you have a deep curiosity about something, there's a sign that there's something there for you. And for the other manifesting generators, I know you get this, like it can be hard, and we can judge ourselves around that because we're like, well, I don't want, what happens if I start another 50th hobby? Like, when am I going to have time for this? Like, I'm going to get burnt out, right? So really coupling your curiosity with your intuition for that moment to moment, like, am I really feeling the pull for this right now? And I think that kind of crippling scattered behavior can come when we're thinking too far in advance and trying to do it all at once. So it's finding that balance of having that clear vision, having those clear desires, and then really working intuitively, kind of like moment to moment. And there's some like long-term project management skills that kind of come in the middle there. But yeah, just play with that, and observe yourself from a place of non-judgment and see how you can interact with your curiosity and your intuition in this season, because this is the time for it to really trust it and to allow it to lead. Especially with Jupiter and Cancer over the next year, really trust and lean into our intuition and our feelings as we're building out our big dreams. Because here's the thing about building intuitively, specifically in business, is we don't know how things are going to change. Like the social media apps, they can change in the blink of an eye. The world that we're living in can change in the blink of an eye. We went through COVID, we've seen this, and our intuition is tapped into that universal intelligence, and it sees things and it knows things that we couldn't possibly plan for, even if we planned out the perfect long-term project management system, right? So, having those like points on the map that you're working towards, but really allowing your intuition to lead in the moment by moment basis. And then when your intuition gives you a nudge on something, then okay, I'm going to do the work, put the systems and structures in place to bring that idea to life. And then we have a really exciting and juicy and feel good new moon coming up in Cancer on the 25th. So, between the full moon and the new moon, let's do these reflections and really get clear on where we want to go, and really get rid of everything else. Do the clearing out. I don't know if any of you have been in this massive decluttering purge portal, but I have. I think it was partly from doing IVF and realizing that there's a high chance of success that we're going to get pregnant and have a baby, and I was like, okay, we got to get organized. I've got to get rid of shit and just make space. And that just turned into this giant declutter fest in my home, my closets, my business. I have been tossing everything out and just getting rid of everything. And really, I think that is the preliminary step to creating simplicity and feel good pleasure in the things that we're choosing to devote our time and energy to. We have to get rid of the stuff that's in the way, the piles of clutter on the desk that make you sitting down and working on that creative project less easeful and enjoyable. So my update, some of the things that I've been feeling, definitely since going through IVF, been really in this feminine portal. And I think, Jupiter and Gemini was a very intellectual and strategic and action taking last year for me. And I've really just taken a massive shift back into flow and back into really allowing my intuition to lead in my business. And I've been leaning back into music. So after publishing my book, I kind of put music on the back burner because I just had to in order to complete that project. And I was like, I'll just finish my audiobook and then I'll get back to music. And obviously there was fires in LA at the beginning of the year. I feel like this year all my plans just went out the window as soon as January rolled around. But I just wasn't feeling working on another structured project in that way. And I just didn't really know what I wanted to work on. And so I just allowed myself to play and to just be in that space. And now I've had a few ideas emerge, and I feel like today was the day that a project idea finally clicked for me, where I'm like, this is the project that I'm going to prioritize. So that was a really good feeling, but it was so freaking uncomfortable to be in that well, what is my priority right now? Because I just didn't have that clarity. And I've been really leaning back into my original intention for my business, which was always to bring me creative freedom. I'm revisiting what I want that to look like at every single level of my life and business and then this next season. So yeah, the decluttering and the purging it's been great. And I think there's a part of me that resists kind of diving into a lot of structural ways of working, because there's that fear of like, well, I'm probably just going to throw this all out the window in a few months, because that regularly happens with me. But a reframe that I found really helpful is, you know, even if, say, we try on a different strategy, we go all in and we put a lot of time and energy into it, and then we realize that that's not how we want to do our business, or it didn't really work for us, or it didn't feel good, or it didn't feel sustainable with who we are. There's still so many benefits and so many skills that we build in the process of doing that. And I think, you know, part of that is very much like the manifesting generator path too. It's like, maybe you're gonna get the urge to go and, you know, decorate denim jackets, and that's not gonna go anywhere, but something in the process of doing that is gonna alchemize for you. So really having this attitude of like trusting my intuition, even if it doesn't make sense with the perfect plan that I made for my business, knowing that something's going to alchemize, or like in moving in that direction, I'm going to get clarity about something I don't want to continue, or I'm going to get even more clarity on who I am. That's going to mean when I move into that next phase, I'm going to have that next level of confidence and clarity that's going to elevate the way that I choose to do things. So yeah, and with Jupiter moving into Cancer, which is end of my 10th house, and then moving into my 11th house, I'm just really thinking about community building right now and the way that I want to build community over the coming year. And obviously I'm hoping to be pregnant by the end of this year. So it's kind of giving me chapters. And I've always struggled with audience building and like really choosing and dedicating to like a small handful of strategies instead of trying to do many things at once. And I finally had some clarity that clicked in of like, you know what, just pick the one thing that works really, really well for me, that's super easy, that's always brought me more clients, that I really enjoy. And that for me is guest podcasting. So I'm like, oh, hallelujah, having clarity around that one audience growth strategy that I'm really going to lean into in the coming months, you know, knowing that maybe when I have like a baby, it might not be as easy for me to go and create a quiet space to go and interview. So I'm like, let's just do that for a season. And then maybe I'll shift into, you know, blogging or something after that, or like one of my other million ideas on the list of audience growth strategies that I've been like trying to get to. So yeah, that's what's been going on with me. So I'm really excited to see what comes up for you, and I'm going to share some journal prompts for you to dive in. So grab your journal and start with reflecting on the past month. But obviously, if any insights come up for you, knowing that we've just gone through like an annual-ish shift with the Jupiter transit, just see what comes up.